Let me dissect your financial reality. You are likely earning just enough to survive, but never quite enough to breathe. Every single month feels like navigating a minefield, where one unexpected expense threatens to detonate your entire existence. Your payday arrives, providing a momentary hit of dopamine, and then vanishes just as quickly. To cope with this perpetual anxiety, you have adopted a very dangerous, highly engineered illusion. You have convinced yourself that if you just made a little more money, everything would finally be okay. You believe that once you cross some invisible, magical income threshold, the stress will evaporate, your life will stabilize, and wealth will naturally accumulate. This is the exact lie the architects of the economy want you to believe. You have been sold a half-truth by a system that requires your continuous financial bleeding. They told you to work hard and play by the rules. What they deliberately omitted is that the entire economic ecosystem surrounding you is algorithmically designed to make you spend your capital faster than you can earn it. The relentless advertisements, the toxic "you deserve it" messaging, the frictionless financing, none of this is random. It is intentional, predatory engineering. And you have been blindly playing inside their casino your entire life, without ever questioning the house edge. Centuries ago, Machiavelli warned against this exact blindness. He observed that individuals are not destroyed by a lack of opportunity. They are destroyed because they fundamentally misunderstand the nature of power. And in the modern era, money is the ultimate expression of power. Here is the cold, surgical truth that will shatter your comfort zone. Income is not power. Control is power. You do not feel trapped and suffocated because your salary is too small. You feel trapped because you lack a ruthless financial strategy. Wealth does not spontaneously begin the day your paycheck grows. It begins the exact moment your psychological behavior towards capital changes. I have witnessed this firsthand. People believe the next raise will be their salvation. They equate higher income with freedom, but when the money increases, the stress remains identically paralyzing. Why? Because a larger paycheck simply fuels the same broken, undisciplined habits. Nothing will shift until you stop blaming the size of your income and start brutally analyzing your own behavior. Real transformation, the kind that alters the trajectory of your bloodline, only begins when your comfortable illusions are violently broken. If this realization makes you uncomfortable, if it bruises your ego, good. In the next 25 minutes, I'm going to teach you how to weaponize your limited resources. I will show you the exact strategies to plug the invisible leaks, reclaim your sovereignty, and build an untouchable fortress, no matter how small your current paycheck is. To escape the low-income trap, you must first understand the battlefield. You are not operating in a neutral economy. You are existing within a parasitic ecosystem. Every corporation, every bank, every marketing algorithm, and every subscription service is a highly optimized predator, specifically designed to extract your limited liquidity. When your paycheck hits your bank account, that money is not yours. It is merely resting in your hands for a few fleeting moments before it is automatically distributed to the masters of the system. You are a conduit, a temporary vessel for capital that belongs to someone else. The traditional advice for the working class is to budget. You are told to pay your rent, pay your bills, buy your groceries, and if, by some mathematical miracle, there is anything left over at the end of the month, you should save it. This is the logic of a defeated peasant. It is a strategy of surrender. You are essentially feeding every parasite in the room and hoping they leave a few crumbs on the table for your future. Machiavelli had absolute disdain for those who leave their fate to chance. Fortune favors those who aggressively take control, not those who passively react. To build wealth from the bottom of the hierarchy, you must commit an act of psychological rebellion. You must completely invert the flow of capital. This brings us to the first Machiavellian law of financial sovereignty. Law number 1. the ruthless prioritization of the sovereign self. You must treat your future self as the most terrifying, unforgiving creditor in your life. If you miss a rent payment, the landlord will threaten you with eviction. If you miss a credit card payment, the bank will penalize you. There is immediate external pressure. But when you neglect your own financial future, there is silence. The system does not punish you for failing to build wealth. In fact, it profits from your perpetual dependence. Therefore, you must artificially manufacture that pressure yourself. From this day forward, you must effectively embezzle from your own paycheck before the system can touch it. The exact moment your income arrives, before you pay for shelter, before you pay for food, and certainly before you pay for momentary entertainment, you extract your tribute. You move a specific percentage into an untouchable fortress. The weak will immediately deploy their favorite defense mechanism. I don't make enough to save. That is not a mathematical fact. That is an ego-protecting excuse. The absolute amount is entirely irrelevant. Whether it is $1,000 or $10, the objective is not immediate capital accumulation. The objective is the aggressive rewiring of your identity. By taking your cut first, even when it is painfully uncomfortable, you are sending a violent psychological signal to your own brain. You are declaring that the construction of your empire is non-negotiable. You are establishing the dominance of the sovereign over the demands of the peasant. John D. Rockefeller understood this before he ever became a billionaire. When he was just a low-income bookkeeper, he ruthlessly paid himself first from every single modest paycheck. He understood that wealth does not start with massive windfalls. It starts with the quiet, unyielding discipline of capturing territory. When you pay everyone else first, you are subconsciously admitting that their wealth is more important than your freedom. When you extract your tribute first, you take the foundational step from being the prey to becoming the predator. You stop waiting for the system to leave you leftovers, and you start taking what is yours by force. Once you have forcefully extracted your tribute from the system, you must secure the perimeter. This brings us to a psychological defect that keeps millions of people perpetually impoverished: willful blindness. Let me ask you a surgical question. Have you ever looked at your bank account at the end of the month and genuinely wondered where all the capital went? It feels like a magic trick. It feels as though the money simply evaporated. Money does not evaporate. It is tactically, quietly, and systematically extracted from you. But because the extraction is painful to acknowledge, you choose not to look. You avoid your financial statements. You guess your balances. You operate in a state of financial fog because the fog protects your fragile ego from the reality of your own lack of discipline. Machiavelli warned that the most dangerous threats to a sovereign are the ones that move in the shadows. Law number 2. Establish the omniscient eye. You must initiate a ruthless, clinical surveillance operation on your own capital. You do not have a money problem. You have a clarity problem. When you order an overpriced meal on a Thursday night because you are too tired to cook, you are not just buying calories. You are paying a service fee, a delivery fee, a tip, and a premium markup. That single moment of emotional weakness costs you hundreds of dollars. Multiply that by 30 days. Add the forgotten digital subscriptions, the daily coffee that serves as your coping mechanism, and the impulse purchases. This is not accidental. This is death by 1,000 cuts. Engineered by corporations that understand your psychological fatigue better than you do. Power is rarely taken from you in one massive strike. It is siphoned away through hundreds of frictionless microtransactions. The Rothschilds, during the rise of their global banking empire, tracked every single ledger, every fraction of a cent. They did this not because they were cheap, but because they understood that precision is the prerequisite for leverage. If you do not track every dollar like it owes you blood, you are navigating a war zone blindfolded. You must use whatever tool necessary to record your outflows. When you see the numbers in cold, hard data, the illusions shatter. You can no longer lie to yourself. You realize you are not broke. You are just careless. And carelessness is a luxury the low-income earner cannot afford. Law number 3. Weaponized poverty. We live in a society addicted to the theater of wealth. The middle class and the poor are desperate to look successful. They drain their limited liquidity to purchase the costumes of the rich, the financed luxury car, the branded clothing, the apartment that consumes 60% of their income. They trade their actual freedom for the fleeting applause of strangers they secretly despise. This is a catastrophic strategic failure. In the Machiavellian architecture of power, displaying strength before it is fully consolidated is suicide. If you are operating on a low income, your ego is your greatest liability. You must adopt the strategy of weaponized poverty. You must intentionally engineer your life to be drastically cheaper than your income allows. You do not do this because there is nobility in suffering. You do it because margin creates options, and options create power. You must become invisible. While your peers are taking on debt to prove their worth on social media, you must disappear into the background. Drive the 10-year-old vehicle. Wear the unbranded clothing. Live in the modest space. You starve your ego today so that you can feed your empire tomorrow. A software engineer driving a rusty car with zero debt and a quietly compounding investment portfolio possesses infinitely more power than a manager driving a financed Porsche while living paycheck to paycheck. The former is a free sovereign. The latter is a well-dressed slave owned by the bank. The elite practice stealth wealth because they know that visibility invites interference. When you look like a peasant, the predators ignore you. You are left alone to accumulate your leverage in silence. You delay gratification while the masses rush toward it. And, over time, the mathematical gap between you and them becomes insurmountable. You do not need to look rich. You need to be untouchable. We must now address the most pathetic, self-sabotaging excuse deployed by the lower income brackets. I will invest when I have more money. This is the ultimate declaration of a subservient mindset. Investing is not a luxury reserved for the elite. It is the exact mechanical process by which the elite are created. Law number 4. The relentless acquisition of sovereign territory. You must completely eradicate your identity as a consumer and surgically replace it with the identity of an owner. The parasitic economy trains you to view money strictly as a medium of exchange, a tool to acquire depreciating liabilities and fleeting comforts. The sovereign, however, views money exclusively as ammunition to capture territory. If you have $50 left over at the end of the week, the peasant mindset dictates that you use it to buy a meal, a drink, or a moment of relief. The architect uses that $50 to buy a microscopic fraction of the global economy. The absolute mathematical amount is irrelevant in the beginning. What matters is the profound psychological mutation. The very exact moment you purchase your first asset, no matter how small, you cross the impenetrable boundary dividing the exploited from the exploiters. You are no longer just the fuel burning inside the machine. You now own a piece of the engine. Most people remain paralyzed, waiting for the perfect moment, the elusive promotion, the miraculous windfall. They are waiting for the system to grant them permission to be powerful. The architect acts while the amounts are pitiful. Consider the psychology of the ultra-wealthy. They do not start investing because they have millions. They have millions because they started investing when they had nothing. When you invest a trivial amount, you are not chasing dividends. You are running a high-stakes simulation. You are systematically training your nervous system to handle, allocate, and risk capital without emotional interference. So, when that $50 eventually scales to $50,000, you possess the cold, calculating capacity to deploy it. If you wait until you are wealthy to learn how to be an owner, your poverty is permanently guaranteed. Stop viewing small investments as a waste of time. View them as the fundamental acquisition of your own financial sovereignty. But aggressively acquiring territory is utterly useless if you are simultaneously allowing the enemy inside your gates. This brings us to the most insidious, perfectly engineered form of modern slavery ever invented: middle-class debt. Law number 5. The execution of the parasitic leash. The global banking system has pulled off the greatest psychological heist in human history. They have successfully convinced the masses that debt is a convenience, a tool for building credit and accessing the good life today. Buy now, pay later, 0% financing options, minimal monthly installments for a television, a car, a vacation. Let me be brutally clear. These are not financial products. They are digital shackles. A financial institution does not profit from your prosperity. It feeds exclusively on your dependency. Every single time you accept a low monthly payment for a depreciating asset, you are voluntarily surrendering your future autonomy. You are pledging your unlived days, your future sweat, and your cognitive bandwidth to a corporate entity, just so you can briefly experience the shallow illusion of status today. A luxury vehicle financed over 7 years is not a symbol of wealth. It is a glowing neon sign screaming to the 1% that you are a highly profitable, easily manipulated slave to the lender. To escape the low-income trap, you must view debt not as a mere mathematical inconvenience, but as an existential threat to your sovereignty. You must orchestrate the brutal, systematic execution of every single liability that does not directly generate revenue for you. You must learn to hate your debt. You must attack it with the unyielding ferocity of a cornered predator. Understand the leverage dynamics. A man with a low income, who drives a beat-up vehicle, lives in a modest apartment, and owes absolutely nothing to anyone, possesses a level of tactical freedom that genuinely terrifies the system. He cannot be easily pressured by a toxic boss. He cannot be easily controlled by inflation. He can walk away at any moment. The system desperately wants you indebted, because a man drowning in monthly payments would accept any indignity, any abusive job, and any unfair compromise just to keep his head above water. Debt kills your ability to say no. And in the game of wealth, no is the most powerful word in your vocabulary. Sever the leash. We have secured the perimeter. We have neutralized the debt. Now, we build the engine of your financial sovereignty. The weak believe that escaping poverty requires exhausting themselves through endless labor. This is the tragic illusion of hustle culture. Law number 6. The asymmetric warfare of quiet income. The system wants you exhausted. It glorifies the 16-hour workday, the 3 jobs, the sleepless nights. This is not a strategy. This is the desperate thrashing of a drowning man. Machiavelli never believed in merely surviving through sheer kinetic effort. He believed in the relentless expansion of power through leverage. You must stop trying to sell more of your time and start building systems that generate capital independently of your physical existence. This is what the elite call quiet income. Quiet income is profoundly boring, and that is exactly why it is lethal. It is the digital product you build once and sell an infinite number of times. It is the automated freelance system, the licensing agreement, the dividend portfolio. You do not need to be loud. You do not need a flashy startup. You need a quiet, unfeeling mechanism that extracts capital from the market while you sleep. The working class chases active income to buy experiences. The sovereign builds quiet income to buy back their time. $10,000 accumulated through quiet leverage changes your identity. It transforms you from a dependent employee into an autonomous operator. It proves that you no longer need the system's permission to generate wealth. Law number 7. The calculus of sovereignty. Poor math is entirely emotional. Rich math is a clinical war budget. The middle class calculates their finances by asking a subservient question. Can I afford the monthly payment? The architect asks a predatory question. What will this cost my future empire over the next decade? You must abandon the survival budgeting of the masses. The traditional formula dictates that you pay for your lifestyle first and save whatever pathetic scraps remain. We will replace this with a militant framework. 60% for operational survival, 30% for empire building, and 10% for calculated indulgences. You are no longer saving money. You are systematically allocating 30% of your liquidity toward the acquisition of asymmetric power. This is how an individual earning $40,000 a year mathematically obliterates someone earning $150,000 a year. The high earner is reactive, blindly upgrading their lifestyle to match their paycheck, trapped in a gilded cage of hyperconsumption. The sovereign earner is intentional. They understand that financial freedom tomorrow is infinitely more valuable than a fleeting illusion of status today. Law number 8. The inevitability of the machine. This is the final and most critical law. Do not trust yourself. Machiavelli understood that human nature is fundamentally flawed, inconsistent, and highly susceptible to temptation. Your discipline will inevitably fracture. You will have days of exhaustion, moments of emotional weakness, and sudden urges to reward yourself. If your wealth accumulation relies on your daily willpower, it will eventually collapse. Therefore, you must automate your ascent. You must remove your own fragile psychology from the equation entirely. Establish a secondary, untouchable financial fortress. A vault with no debit card, no mobile application, and no easy access. Program the extraction of your capital to occur automatically the very second your income arrives. Let the machines execute your strategy. Automation does not feel fatigue. It does not feel the urge to impress strangers on the internet. It simply executes the code. The paradox of elite wealth is this. The less you actively think about your money, the more aggressively it compounds. By automating your investments, your debt liquidation, and your savings, you are outsmarting your own human weakness. You did not hustle your way out of the low-income trap. You coldly, clinically designed your way out of it. You built the machine, you turned the key, and you let the relentless mathematics of time and compound interest do the heavy lifting in absolute silence. The surgery is complete. The illusions of the middle class have been meticulously dismantled and laid bare before you. You now possess the 8 laws of the Machiavellian sovereign. You understand that your low income is not an excuse to remain a victim. It is the exact pressure required to forge unparalleled, strategic discipline. Most of the individuals watching this video will do absolutely nothing with this information. The programming of the parasitic economy is too deep. They will close this window, return to their comfortable, automated consumption, and continue to bleed their capital dry in exchange for the momentary illusion of status. They will spend their entire lives working for a system that was explicitly designed to keep them dependent. If that is the path you choose, the 1% will gladly accept your labor and your interest payments. But for the microscopic fraction of you who felt a cold, unsettling shift in your psychology today, your reality has changed permanently. You will no longer view a paycheck as permission to spend. You will view it as ammunition to conquer. You will build the omniscient I. You will weaponize your poverty. You will execute your debt, and you will automate your empire in complete, strategic silence. This channel is not an entertainment platform. It is a sorting mechanism, designed to separate the architects from the bricks. If you have decided to stop surviving and start conquering, subscribe now. Signal to the algorithm that your domestication is over, and you are ready to claim your sovereignty. The system wants you poor, predictable, and exhausted. Prove them wrong. Farewell.